He says one should, if one can, be machmir Rabbeinu Tam. Hagor the Ramah says v'noyegim Rabbeinu Tam. The Ramah says v'noyeg Rabbeinu Tam. So I should try and always have and fulfill the opinion of Rabbeinu Tam, right? Which is to have 6 of the strings to be the full 24 centimeters, and the other 2 to be the Kehilla Ani, which is 4 centimeters. Okay, Hagor, Ramah continues. We mentioned this, that if one was careful when one made the knots to keep them apart, then according to the opinion of Rabbeinu Tam, it's not going to help you. Still, if 3 ends snap, it's going to be problematic, as we discussed already. Because then you definitely have those 3 strings come definitely from 3 separate strings. Right. And if they snapped from the 2 different sides, then it's also possible because maybe they're from 3 separate strings. We discussed all the different combinations and permutations of that. Let's continue with the Shulchan Aruch, and then we'll go back and pick out a few Mishnah. Sif base. Where there's a din of Kehilla Ani, this amount, Kehilla Ani, remember, is the amount the length of string needed to make a bow in the string, including all the other strings, around the other strings. Around the other strings, we mentioned that according to the Shulchan Aruch, it's only around the other snapped strings. The Chazon Ish is machmir around all the strings. Because if one has thick strings, one can't knot them due to the thickness of the strings. If they were thinner, then they would be long enough. Obviously, the thicker the strings, the longer the string will have to be in order to knot them together. Kosher, it's still kosher. We evaluate it with medium width strings. So we said that the best way of evaluating is the Halacha, who gave us a shear in centimeters. He told us 2 finger breadths, which comes to 4 centimeters. Rabbi Eliezer Stahl is 4 centimeters. Chazon Ish is 4.8. That's the best way to calculate it. Okay, let's now see a couple of Mishnah Berurahs, and then we'll see the last Seif. Okay, if we look at Mishnah Berurah Seif Cotton Dalet, that's on the previous page. We look on Mishnah Berurah Seif Cotton Dalet, the previous page, that's page 46, about 7 lines from the top, 8 lines from the top. Right? Again, I say it starts off with posel eine kamam sif gimel. Starting from the 4th word of that sif kon dalet. According to everyone, if the string snapped at the beginning of the string, meaning where it's connected to the garment, to the corner of the garment, to posel. According to everyone, that's possible.
Right, so we've been talking this whole time about the end of the end.
We've been talking about the end, right? If it's snapped where it's connected to the garment, according to everyone, it's possible. When a person checks his tzitzis, the Taz says the Reish Hamayim should also check where it comes out to the beggar, just to check they didn't snap over there.
Just a moment of clarity. I've been assuming that the distances you've been describing are from the bottom knot, in terms of a bow. Not from the top of it.
Just to be clear, okay? When we talk about the Kehilla Ani, the 4 centimeters of Kehilla Ani, we're measuring from this knot.
From the bottom
4
knot.
centimeters of string.
Less.
Right? When we talk about Rabbeinu Tam, who wants them to be full length, 24 centimeters, he's measuring from the garment, from the edge of the garment to the edge of the sitzah, 24 centimeters.
Right. Okay.
Right? But we've been talking about the sitzah snapping here.
Right.
Now we're discussing a string snapping over here. If even one string snaps over here, this is apostle.
That's before the first knot.
Yes.
The first knot, right?
Correct. Okay.
I don't think I've ever had that happen.
I've seen it.
I've seen it also.
Yeah.
With kids especially.
It's the easiest way to suddenly discover it's apostle. With the other one, you need a few snips to snap. They gradually get shorter. You notice that here, just one snaps, and you're done.
In a sense, it can't be one. It's actually two in that position.
Right, it's one full string.
It's the top of two strings or two ends.
It's also
and it's connected.
Mm-hmm. It's the most common place when you take a shul talis to put it on. It's the most common place to find it possible.
A talis in the shul.
Right, if you take the shul talis, obviously that's where you find the tzitzis that are more likely to be possible. Some shuls are very careful to have people checking them. Other shuls are just when someone discovers the possible, then they invalidate it till when it sits there.
That's its kashrus. It has a
yes. Whether you have to check it or not, we'll see. We'll get to that. Should one check the talis before putting it on? We'll see. Okay. Okay. If we just look to the right-hand side, we're looking at all the different places where the tzitzis might snap. If we look at the right side in the Biur Halacha, we're on the same page where we were just having the Shabbat, just on the right column in the Biur Halacha. A little bit further down than that, there's a Divrei Maschil that starts with the word afilu. In mine, it's the first word on the line. I think we have the same print now.
What's the first word on the line?
The first word on the line is afilu. There's a star, kochavit, a star, and then afilu. Right? It's in the Divrei Maschil of the Biur Halacha. So he starts there. If the tzitzis were to snap on the gdil, remember this is the gdil, right? On the gdil between the knots, right? One of the tzitzis snap over here, let's say, one of these snapped over here. What's the din? Says the Mishnah. This follows the same halacha as if they were to snap at the end. So if one snaps, it's okay. If two snap, then it's still. If one snaps, it's still kosher. And if two snap, then it's going to be problematic because maybe it's from two separate strings, right? And that's going to be problematic, right? And then, of course, according to the second shit of Rabbeinu Tam, it's better not to use the tzitzis because he wants you to have a minimum of 24 centimeters, and with the remaining tzitzis to have a minimum of kedei aniva. And if it snaps over here, that means you haven't got kedei aniva because it's before the final knot. Right.
And you also can't know from where it came.
Fast opinion.
You can't know from where it came unless you undo it. It snaps there.
Right. You could know if it's snapped by one of the middle knots. If it's snapped by one of the knots, you would be able to tell which, if it came from two different sides of the knot or not. And then it would help you come to the first opinion. You'd be able to know if Okay. Fine. Okay. Let's now have a look at Sif Gimel. Now Sif Gimel is the safety net. Sif Gimel is the safety net. When all else fails, one has to know Sif Gimel. So we're back in the Shulchan Aruch, back on the next page, page 47. It says the Shulchan Aruch, Kedei Aniva leRashi min ha'anaf. When we talk about Kedei Aniva, according to the opinion of Rashi, this means from the anaf, meaning the tzitzis, as we've been describing till now. Kedei Aniva is from the final knot, in measuring the length of the tzitzis. The anaf, this is the anaf. Right? Uluri, according to the opinion of the Ri, right, the Ri is one of the Balei Tosfos, and he's actually a great-grandson of Rashi. Right? Great-grandson of Rashi. And it's good to know the family of Rashi now. Let's just talk about it for 30 seconds. Rashi, one of Rashi's daughters was married to someone called Rabbeinu Meir. Right? He had 4 sons, some of them very famous, Rabbeinu Tam, Rashbam was actually the oldest, Rashbam, Rabbeinu Tam.
Rashbam זה הנכד שלו.
נכון. זה שמענו, זה מה שמענו. הוא הבן של רבינו מאיר. רבינו מאיר הוא חתן של רש"י.
מי?
רבינו מאיר הוא חתן של רש"י, והבנים שלו הם רשב"ם, that's the first one, there's a grandsons of Rashi, Rashbam, Rabbeinu Tam, right? And another 2. And they had a sister, and their sister's son was the Ri. The Ri Hazokin, often known as the Ri Hazokin, because there are a few different Balei called Ri Hazokin. So the Ri argues on Rashi. According to the Ri, Kedei aniva, the shear of 4 centimeters is the gedil. We're talking about the knotted part, just has to be 4 centimeters. That's all you need over here, 4 centimeters. Right? Uminag olam kurashi. The minag is like Rashi. Vehechet deloi efshe yislichleishim where in a situation where there's nothing else, there's nothing one can do about it, then one can rely on the opinion of the Ri. Let's have a look at this opinion. This is the Mishabur to explain to us exactly what we can rely on here. So the Mishabur is Sivkot Gimel. Sivkot Gimel, about halfway down the column. Yesh lismachari. Umutar l'boish habeged, one can wear the garment. What we said before, that one can rely on Rabbeinu Tam, right? The question is, what do you need to one should preferably follow the opinion of Rabbeinu Tam. If one can easily find other tzitzis to wear, then one should follow Rabbeinu Tam, making sure that each tzitzis is a minimum of 24 centimeters, and the remaining, except for 2, which can be Kedei aniva. One doesn't have to start running after them looking for tzitzis if one hasn't got. If one doesn't have in front of him. Or if you'd have to miss davening with a tibur, with a congregation, in order to find kosher tzitzis. When we say here that one can rely on the Ri, where it's we're talking about where he can't find tzitzis at all, is just mechari. However, one can't make a brach on it. Also, lot says also one cannot go out to the Shusay Rabbim on Shabbos with them. Even if part of the gil was to start, one can rely on this b'shas adchak. One should know. This isn't talking about where the string snapped at the place of the knot. This is possible midagais according to the Ri, even according to the Ri. Okay, let's just summarize exactly that. So it's very clear halacha-theory where we're holding. Okay, we now have 3 opinions. We had 2, we've moved up to 3. Okay, turns out this halacha-theory like this, right? In a situation where one can easily change one's tzitzis, right, and one can easily change them, one should follow the opinion of Rabbeinu Tam. That's the most chomedic opinion, that one needs to have full-length tzitzis, right? You can have up to 2 snapping to Kedei aniva. In an opinion, if it's just before davening, one can't change one's tzitzis, or one's in a place where there's no shop where one can buy tzitzis, one can rely on the second opinion on Rashi, which is, we mentioned that you need all the tzitzis to be a minimum, or at least one end of each of the strings to be a minimum of Kedei aniva, 4 centimeters, measured from the final knot, the 5th knot, meaning of the actual length of the strings, to be a minimum of 4 centimeters, except for, we said, 2 can be even less than that. If you kept them apart, then all the ones on one side can be even less than that. Okay? The opinion on the Ri, which is only to be relied on in a daini, there's no way he can get hold of tzitzis. There's no tzitzis available, no way he can get hold of tzitzis. Then you can rely on the opinion of the Ri, that this 4 centimeters Kedei aniva is measured on the length of the gedil. From the end of the beged, from the first knot, Kedei aniva 4 centimeters. Okay? According to everyone, if it was to snap in where the knot is, that's possible according to everyone midiraisa. So this is the biggest person. That's point of knot.
I have a question.
Okay.
It's sort of a universal or global question. The requirement is to put tzitzits on a garment with 4 corners. We learned that at the beginning. We wear tzitzit katan in order to have a garment that has 4 corners, and we wear tzitzit. Mm-hmm. But if your tzitzit are in this situation, they're getting to the point where they're puzzle, where is the commandment to actually wear a garment with 4 corners and tzitzit, as opposed to the commandment of putting tzitzit on a garment that has 4 corners?
Correct. According to the Torah, midiraisa, one doesn't need to wear tzitzis. if one has a garment with if one is wearing a garment with 4 corners, one has to make sure one puts tzitzis on and not wear it without them. Correct. However, the Gemara says that be'idin riska, at a time of anger, Hashem punishes for not wearing tzitzis. Right? Why? Because it's such an easy mitzvah to do. Right? It's a bonus. You just put it on, you forget about it. It's a very easy mitzvah. Therefore, there is a time there is a claim against a person who doesn't wear tzitzis. And the Gemara says, therefore, make sure one should wear tzitzis all day. This is why we all wear tzitzis every day. Right? The Gemara says that one should wear it all day. Even though you're technically correct, the midoraisa, according to the Torah, one doesn't need to. One's not violating any Torah commandment by not wearing tzitzis at all.
So it would be better not to wear a tzitzit than to wear puzzle.
In a case where the tzitzis are puzzle, of course, one has to take it off.
Right.
One has to take off the garment.
But if it's a something you can rely on the reed, it's better to still continue fulfilling the mitzvah. That's what it sounds like to me, until you can get another pair.
Right.
In other words, you don't want to take off the garment and stop doing the mitzvah.
Right.
If you still, according to one opinion, can continue fulfilling it.
Correct. According to the reed, one should still.
That's where your point comes in.
Well, I think it depends on who you hold by. Right.
Well, they're saying that if you end up in a situation you don't have another pair of tzitzis, you can rely on the reed. Obviously, you should spend a lot of effort trying to get another pair of tzitzis from that point forward.
Right. Someone who's traveling, let's say, there's no way of getting hold of another pair of tzitzis. He's on a 12-hour flight, right? And then he notices in the first hour that his tzitzis have snapped. Right? So he
put this plane down.
Should he take them off or not? They're not going to do an emergency landing just to get a new pair of tzitzis. Right? So he should keep the tzitzis on, as he said, if he's still fulfilling the opinion of the Ri.
Right.
An interesting point that Pri Megadim makes, if you have a look at the Biur Halacha on the left.
But if it's not to that first point, at the top of the garment where it goes through the hole in the tzitzit.
If it's at the way it goes through the hole, then one takes off the tzitzit.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
Yeah, no question. If you have a look at the Biur Halacha, it's probably about 9 or 10 lines down. On the same page that we're on now.
Yesh lismach?
Yesh lismach, exactly. The Biur Halacha starts with the word Yesh lismach. It's in the middle of a line, about 9 or 10 lines down. He says, Pri Megadim mishvizazov, kosab, v'da, im nifseku kol ha'chutin ad ha'gdil, the posuk in the verb is in the basic aleph, imu baderech, ve'enu tzitzis acherim, yatir ha'gdil shuta legudolim, v'yoysev v'yose k'tas gdil k'tas anaf. ולחמכה בפסים נדע לפספתה לדיד שלכתחילה ויבורך אף לדידון תסביר יוד בייס גדול וכל מוקם ירבש ולבורך יש סופק מהתור די בכלשהו ואין אוהב מססי תציציס. The Pri Megadim's got an interesting idea. He says that if all the tzitzis, if the whole anaf snapped and one's only left with the gedil, right? So according to the opinion of Rashi and Rabbi Eliezer, one needs to have both gedil and anaf. According to the Ri, it's good enough just to have a kedei aniva of the gedil. Right. One doesn't need the anaf. According to the first 2 opinions, one needs both, the Ri and Rabbi Eliezer. So it snapped all the way down to here, right, to the first knot. Right? One still has the opinion of the Ri to rely on. Said the Pri Megadim, why not try and chaperine, try and get Rashi and Rashi as well? Right? How? By undoing some of the knots and krichos.
So you'll have kedei aniva.
Then you'll have kedei aniva. You'll have both some krichos and some tzitzis. Again, we're talking about in a place where you can't get other tzitzis. Of course, if one can get other tzitzis, one should. We're here, right? But if one can't, one's on this flight. At least if one was to undo some of the knots and strings, one would have both gedil and anaf, and therefore one's going to have a kedei aniva of the actual strings as well. They have 4 centimeters of string, free string, and then we use also shittas Rashi. Why not? That's opinion. That's what the Pri Megadim mentions.
So he's saying it's better to have kedei aniva than it is to have all your knots.
Right.
Yes, because then we've got shittas Rashi as well.
Right.
If you're missing the strings.
If
you don't have if you don't have the anaf at all,
right,
then it's better to have the some type of anaf than all the knots.
Right, correct. Yeah. Okay. Then he talks about it. We just run out of time. Just noticed. He says afterwards, what he mentions is the problem of tas of lo min ha'osa. Right? That we've mentioned this before. That one has to make with a number of mitzvahs where it says you have to make them, like Rasul, you have to make tzitzis. It has to be made and not made actively and not passively. It can't be that you one has to actually tie the tzitzis in a way that one makes gedil and anaf. Right. Here one is untying tzitzis and therefore ending up with an anaf. This is the problem of tas of lo min ha'osa. You're revealing that it already has tzitzis rather than actually making them in a way that you have 3 tzitzis. Therefore one would have to untie it and then retie it in a way that one has both gedil and anaf. So that was something one could do if one's on this long flight and discuss this is the apostle. He'll have enough time to do this. He can't get hold of other tzitzis. Yeah. He just unties tzitzis and reties in a way that he has some knots in the kliches and some strings.
It's a great way to spend the flight.
And then when he arrives at his destination,